start, so with your permission, even though there are a few people still queued up, let us get some formalities. So let me call to order today's meeting at Roberson Montessori School, June 10, 2016. We'll appoint Treasurer Pro Tem, Mr. McManus, who's been serving in that great capacity for the past week, so thank you very much. So Mr. Treasurer Pro Tem, could you please take the roll call?
President Bagheera.
Present.
Vice President Taylor. Board Member Lacey. Mr. Lee. Present. Dr. Walker.
Present.
Dr. Roundtree.
Present.
McManus is present. Mr. President, you have 5 present, 2 excused.
Thank you very much, Mr. Treasurer. Let us stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance. The flag is this way. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all very much for coming here. We're very excited by this event and by the turnout. I see that several more people still coming. Those of you who just came in, there are bios of all 3 finalists at the table there. Also, if you want to ask a question, we are asking you that you write it down on that piece of paper that Ms. Sharice Kidd would hand out to you with a pencil. And then it will be all collected so that our moderator, Marsha Bonhart, who's standing to my left, will be able to direct the traffic source. So we'd like to once again express our gratitude from this board to Marsha for once again agreeing to moderate one of our events. For the past several weeks, we were interviewing many candidates for the superintendent position. So in the past several days, we really narrowed it down. And finally, yesterday, we've come to the top 3 finalists. Let me just say that we had very, very strong candidates throughout the process. It's probably the hardest thing that all of us as board members have to do to narrow it down, because every single individual brought some incredible strength. And of course, what we were looking for are some of the unusual qualities in a superintendent. We weren't looking for a standard educator, but for someone who has experience in urban education, and specifically someone who is bold and innovative and can turn around districts like ours, because we do need it, and we are on a deadline. So none of that is lost on us. We understand the sense of urgency. We are truly committed to make sure that we turn this district around and improve it fairly rapidly. So that's why we're very excited to bring you the top 3 contenders. We will be sitting among you. We'll be watching and analyzing this whole process, and we'll certainly take all of this into account in our final decision. What I'm proud to say, though, is that the board has been very much unified on these processes and has been acting very much in consensus, which was important, and which is especially important considering that we have 7 people on the board, which makes it a fairly large board and therefore very hard to achieve something like that. But when 7 people of different backgrounds, of different walks of life, of different age, are able to achieve a consensus on something as difficult as the position of a superintendent, that does say something. So without any further ado, let me introduce the very first speaker. We position them in alphabetical order. As I've already mentioned, the bios of each of the 3 finalists lists are available right there on the table. So I think there are still a few copies left. And if not, you can always Google too. So some of that information is available online. So let me introduce the very first speaker. That's right. Thank you, Shirley. Let me introduce Marcia Bonhart, our gracious moderator, who will then take it upon herself to make some additional introductions and inviting all the speakers to this podium. So Ms. Bonhart, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Very much, and welcome everyone. Just a few instructions as to how the afternoon is going to advance. Thank you so much for the questions on the index cards, and we're turning them into me, and of course I get the opportunity to select the questions. I will select the questions at random. Absolutely no order. It will not be alphabetical. I don't know anybody, I don't think, with these names. You will, as I call your name, you will come to the microphone there at the edge of the first row, and you'll get a chance to have your question read, and candidates will have 2 minutes to respond to each of the questions. We have our first candidate, as you see here. The other two candidates are waiting in 2 separate rooms for their 30 minutes. After each 30-minute segment, the audience, you will have an opportunity to complete a 5-question survey about the speaker you've just heard, and you will return that, and staff members will then collect all of those for the board after each 30-minute session. Once all 3 candidates are heard, and once each one responds to the questions, they will be invited back to make a summary statement, and they will have 2 minutes each. If your questions are not answered, you can ask them of the 3 candidates after the meeting. In the meantime, the board is going to go into executive session and will not be expected to return until much later, after everyone has left, more than likely. Now, we are going to proceed, and as Dr. Bagroff indicated, we are going to meet and greet Rhonda Kaur, who is the Academic Instructional Officer for Indianapolis Public Schools.
So to tell you a little bit about myself, and it's only 10 minutes, and it's really hard to put all of that into 10 minutes. I was born in Cleveland, Ohio. I was born on the east side of Cleveland, if you know anything about Cleveland, very difficult area. And when my parents left the hospital, they didn't take me with them. I was given up for adoption, and I was raised in Lorain County, near Cleveland. What has always resonated with me, and I've always been reflective of, is the zip code in which I was born in did not offer outstanding educational opportunities for all children. I was very fortunate that I was raised only 20 miles away and had outstanding opportunities. Teachers that loved me, teachers that cared about us, coaches that were committed, a community that supported us. And in my journey, a zip code should not determine the outcomes or the type of quality education opportunities that our children receive. When we consider value add, and I'll get into that in a minute, we have to close achievement gaps. But before we can start to close achievement gaps, we have to close opportunity gaps. All of our kids have to have opportunities for outstanding programs, STEM, AP, IB, dual credit, and the list could go on. And prior to that, we have to close engagement gaps. We're working with different children today. I spoke with a lot of teachers in the room and a lot of principals. Our kids have to be engaged. Gradual release of responsibility. It can't all be on the teacher. I do, I model, we do together, we collaborate. We build that culture of collaboration, and ultimately you do. So I started my career in Cleveland. I was a teacher, very proud teacher. I taught Spanish. I am bilingual. Quiero dar gracias a mis familias que están aquí. I went on to earn my master's my educational specialist degree in educational leadership. And currently I am finishing my dissertation finally at the University of Akron on racial equity. And I've done a lot of work with racial equity in all of my school districts, but in particularly rounding up in Indianapolis. So why did I go into teaching? I loved what I did. I never thought I would ever leave teaching. I became a principal because I had worked in a school with outstanding teachers, but we weren't getting the supports that we needed for our kids. That's what drove me to the next step. And now that I had been a principal for a number of years, sometimes we feel like we're out there on little islands, siloed, all by ourselves. Now I moved into area superintendent in Chicago, in Indianapolis, because I want to support schools. You will not find me sitting in a central office. You will find me out in the schools, not in an I got you manner, but in a way that I can support and coach our principals and our teachers and make sure that we are meeting the needs of all of our children. If we do not differentiate our approaches with all learners, children, parents, teachers, principals, we're not going to make it. Everybody in this room is at a different place. We're either a young teacher. If we don't help our young teachers, research is showing we're losing them after 5 years. We have to have structures in place to support them. Our veteran teachers, as we think about the one-to-one rollout, we're going to need some intensive professional development for teachers and for students. As we transition to a middle school model, once again, we need some great professional development. Look at the data. Our kids are not learning. I am here because I have done the work in Chicago. I walked into Chicago, I built my own central office team, and we turned around the schools quickly. 34 of my 35 schools, and I was in South Chicago, moved to a next higher level. And even the one that didn't move to the other level, they still moved. We increased attendance. We dropped suspension rates by 10% our first year, 42% our second year. So my urban education experience is profound. 25 years in Cleveland, founding principal of an International Newcomers Academy, helping all of our immigrants and refugees and bilingual students, our ELs. I can do the work. I have the experience. So when I come out here with a plan, it's not just a plan. It's a plan that I made happen. That a team of people, dedicated people, because one thing I do know, I can't do it myself. I will never stand on a platform and talk about how this is all about me, because it will be us. We have to build a community of people, and this is overwhelming to see everybody here on a Friday night and the Catholic lane. I'm impressed. You see me looking off on the side, I might be trying to check a score later on. It's awesome. I've had 3 days. I came in early to tour the city. Love Dayton. I love the enthusiasm. I love the downtown, the turnaround, bringing the city back. It's a great opportunity. And I refuse, if given this opportunity, in this immense responsibility, to allow our schools to go into state receivership. I did the work in Chicago in 1 year. We turned it around. Our second year, we continue to make growth. Now, with that being said, if you Google my name, which I wouldn't blame you, you're going to see that I was laid off from Chicago schools. Not because of the work, but because my boss was involved in some illegal activity. I had absolutely nothing to do with it. But she hired me. So everybody that she hired was laid off. Sometimes things happen. Sometimes bad things happen to good people. But nonetheless, I rebounded. I ended up in Indianapolis doing great work. I aspire to be a superintendent. More specifically, I aspire to be a superintendent of the Dayton Public Schools. And I want to partner with each and every one of you, every neighborhood, every organization, all of our universities, our board members, our teachers, our bus drivers. My mother was a bus driver. My father was union. I understand what it's like to all work together. At the end of the day, we want what's best for our students, our families, and our communities. And I'm here to make that happen. So quickly, I'm going to go through my slides because I know I've run out of time. So my 3 strategies. Number 1, increase third grade literacy. research shows if our children are not reading on grade level by the first grade, we spend more money in catch-up than we would have had we invested in early childhood education. And if you look at the report card, we know the rules of the game, we have to play them. This is where we'll make the best bang for the buck. Secondly, value add. When we look at the data, many of our children are making 1 year's worth of growth. So through progress monitoring and formative assessments, not only will we have 1 year of growth, we're going to start setting stretch goals for our students. Constant monitoring. Not more testing. I don't want to scare anybody with more testing. It's part of the teaching cycle. We assess, we plan, we implement, we evaluate. And we want to work with our parents too, because parents are our first teachers. They have to be able to help us. We can't do it alone. We need you. And lastly, improved graduation rate. I want to give props to the former superintendent. She did raise the graduation rates with her team. But we flatlined. So it was 72%, 72.2, and we flatlined over the last 2 years. So we can continue to improve it. How do we do that? Can you flip? There we go. I'll get into that in a minute. So third grade is a four-piece struggle. I talked about this. Early education, family partnerships. We need our families. And when I say families, I don't just mean mom and dad. I want grandma, grandpa, auntie, uncle, cousin, big brother, neighbor. We need to build a community to support our children. A holistic approach. It can't just be the academics. We have to take care of the Maslow before we take care of the Bloom. And lastly, teacher excellence. I know nobody goes to work thinking, gosh, I just don't feel like doing this today. Everybody goes in wanting to do their best. And I will hold myself accountable, and we will all hold ourselves accountable. But I also believe you cannot hold people accountable until you have given them appropriate, differentiated, and job-embedded professional development. That is the key to success. If teachers do not have the right tools in their proverbial toolbox, they can't get it done. We're going to roll out a one-to-one technology. It's a great tool. My God, thank you for going for that. Every child deserves that technology as we move into 21st century learning. But we have to make sure that teachers understand how to use it appropriately and as a great tool, and that our babies do too, and our parents. So improve value add. I talked a little bit about this. Assess, plan, 1 year growth for some of our kids. And don't forget about our kids at the top. Sometimes, you're in second grade, you're on a fifth grade level. Just sit around, hang out for a couple years, you'll catch up. No, we need to keep pushing our upper kids, and we need to get our lower quartile. If you look at the data, our diverse learners, special education, are in the lowest category. Our English language learners, followed by economically disadvantaged and then Hispanic. So, like I said, I am bilingual. I have a master's in special education, and I have worked with refugees and immigrants. So I think I bring a lot to the table, and not in a suburb setting, in urban settings. 3 serious urban settings. Meet the needs of the whole child and the culture to get the entire community excited about opportunities for college. College conversations shouldn't start in the junior year. College conversations start in elementary school. We have so many charter schools in Dayton, and I want to work with you and partner with you to bring our kids back home to the city of Dayton. Every kindergartner, every child that signs up at a community fair, and I'm one of those people, I will live in the city of Dayton. I will be visible at community events. I walked through the room and shook all of your hands. That's sincere. What you see is what you get. I will be there for you. But every little kiddo that signs up, I would love to see them get a shirt with a partnership on the back, class of 2029. I want children and parents to understand at an early age, you are part of a cohort, and the expectation is graduation. Improved graduation rate. So we had a couple metrics that we used in Chicago, very successful. Obviously, credits, credit recovery. We can't wait until kids are juniors and seniors to catch up. We have to monitor all the time. 15 minutes of fame. Every child deserves an opportunity to sit with a counselor to talk about what they want to do, what kind of college they might want to go to. How are their credits? How are their grades? There are certain metrics that if we stay on top of them, our kids will do well. To take that further, we always talk about kids getting into college, but what about kids finishing college? So one of the metrics, and it's from the University of Chicago Consortium, is B's or better. It develops resiliency in our children. And if they're able to maintain a B average or better, they are more likely to finish college. And that is the ultimate goal. Cohort recognition, I already mentioned that. Increase opportunities in AP, in STEM, in dual credit, in honors courses. Improve the rigor. I know I can think back to high school, and probably many of us in the room can, when there might have been a teacher that just didn't like it, so they didn't think we could do much. It can't be like that. We have to push our kids to believe that they can do anything that they set their minds to. We have to set high expectations for all of our children. And exposure opportunities for children. So I want our children to be able to attend Wright State, go visit the college, tour the college, our historically black colleges and universities throughout the state of Ohio. Ohio State University is not too far away. I want them to visit campuses to see what it's like. And a lot of college campuses, it's about the right fit. As it is for me, the right fit to come to Dayton, for our children, it's the right fit about what kind of college that they choose. And I think that's important, and families have to be involved early on. So gap closing. Here's the ultimate question. Is every student succeeding, regardless of income, race, ethnicity, or disability? No. No. We can do better. We will do better together. Next. So additional considerations. And I know, am I running out of time? Probably, yeah. So extra time for quality PD. I talked about some of this. I'm going to start skipping a little bit. MTSS, de-escalation, restorative justice. If we want to reduce suspensions, we have to teach people the skill sets on how to de-escalate student situations. Too many adults want to push buttons when they're upset and send them out of the room. If they are not in a classroom and they are not in our school, we can't educate our children. Now, on the flip side, teachers and principals have to be able to run their school and teach their classroom. So it becomes a double-edged sword. But we have to have the strategies so that we can work better with our youth and keep them in school. We have to teach them how to start problem solving so that fighting is not necessarily the first go-to, or name calling, or bullying. Exit interviews. I started this when I was a principal at John Marshall High School in Cleveland. Not one single family was allowed to leave in this unless they had an exit interview with me. Because I was wondering why folks were leaving. It usually was something so trivial that we fixed it and we kept our families. So we have to all take pride in our schools and encourage people to come back to Dayton and to stay in Dayton. You can flip. I know I'm running out of time. So in my last slide, every student, every step of the way, start strong, ready by 3rd grade, meets or exceeds standards, graduate ready. Because empowering Dayton Public School children to become confident, productive, and virtuous members of our global society through excellence and academics. That is my plan. My plan worked in Chicago. I know I can make it happen. I made it happen. And I want to bring my experience to work with you, with the Dayton Public Schools.
Thank you very much. Mr. Branford Brown will have the first question, which is, what is it in your experience that supports your ability to lead a district with such a large urban minority population, and how will you use those abilities to turn our district, to change our district in the next couple of years?
That was the question.
That's your question? Okay, I just want to make sure I was addressing the right person. So I bring with me a wealth of experience. And you're going to talk to other candidates that have worked in suburbs and different situations, but urban is different. Urban is very different. You have to be fully invested. There's a cultural competency component. You have to take the time to get to know your families, all families. Everybody matters. So in Cleveland, I was there for 25 years, and I did great work. I have a great track record. In Cleveland, I worked with then Governor C.J. Prentice, or not Governor, State Representative C.J. Prentice and Ted Strickland to start closing the achievement gap for our African American males. That later went on to serving our Hispanic males because we saw that there was a problem there. I have partnered with teachers' unions because, again, we can't do this work alone. To start looking at teacher evaluation tools, to start looking at, we call it humanware, social emotional, wraparound services for our kids. From there, I went to Chicago. Chicago, I had a plan, we worked the plan, and in the end, we were the #1, so there's 400,000 students in the Chicago Public Schools. My network, 36 schools, 30,000 students. We were #1. #1 in student growth, #2 in student attainment. So to get growth and attainment at the same time, almost unheard of. We dropped suspensions, we worked with our children about restorative justice practices, and it worked. And it worked. And more specifically, I had an EL coordinator. We had a high EL population, which I know we don't have a large population here, but we can, make progress. I believe there are 800 students the last I looked at. We can make a difference. I founded a Newcomers Academy in Cleveland, specifically for immigrants and refugees. In Indianapolis, so in Chicago, we had to make gains quickly. And Chicago is probably the best comparison to Dayton. We went in a year, and we got it done in a year. And in the second year, it just got better. Indianapolis is a little different. We do a lot more with a lot less. I don't have the data points, but the preliminary data looks really good. I'm sorry. I'd be happy to answer later.
Thank you. There are some folks who have more than one question on your card. E. Hastings, if you could just select one of these questions. We just have time for one question.
Why are you considering to leave your current position?
I seek to be a superintendent. I have been an area superintendent now for 3 years. And while I have loved the work and done good work, I want to do it on a larger scale. I want to be able to come into a district that's a challenge. Dayton is a challenge, state turnaround in 2 years, and I want to make a difference.
Okay, I want to ask my other 2 questions afterwards.
Okay.
Ms. Ford, you are an area superintendent. For those who don't understand what that means, what that encompasses, could you explain that quickly?
Sure. So I'm an area superintendent. What that means is in Chicago, I served an area in the southwest part of Chicago, all the way over to Midway Airport, if you're familiar with Chicago. 36 schools. We started out with 35. We added one our second year, 36, 30,000 students. Turnaround. I have extensive turnaround experience, which is what we need in Dayton. And in Indianapolis, it's a little bit smaller of a district. So in Indianapolis, I serve 31 schools and 15,000 students. And really, you are CEO, especially in Chicago, you are CEO of your area. You decide curriculum, you decide budgets, you're working with aldermen. In Chicago, every single school had a locally elected school board. So I work with 36 different school boards. So I look forward to working with one.
Cheryl Owens has the next question, followed by Catherine, and the last name begins with an M.
that I really would like to do, and I've developed a 90-day plan. And 90-day plans are typical for superintendents that come into organizations. I believe first and foremost, and everybody here, I want to listen. Everybody here has knowledge, and I want to listen to the board members, to the teachers, to the principals, to the bus drivers, to the custodians. I want to hear what everyone has to say about the organizations. Parents, I talked to a young man in the back who told me about the one-to-one technology and how the students need support. But one thing that I don't see, and I need to assess the organization, I would like to implement NWEA as a progress monitoring tool, not as extra testing, but as a cycle of learning. So we assess, we plan, we implement, we evaluate. There's a beginning of the year. A child comes out with whatever their score is, their RIT band. In my district, in Chicago and in Indianapolis, we moved to student-led report cards or student-led conferences. Students owned their data. They were able to articulate what their strengths were, what their weaknesses were, shared that with parents. We also provided parents opportunities to know how to better support their children. And it's very predictive beginning in the 3rd grade what kind of college that one can attend. So the college and career readiness conversations started very early on. So that would be one of my initiatives. I also think a balanced literacy approach is very important in education. Those of us who have been around a long time, we jump on bandwagons. We either want whole language or we want phonics. We really need a balanced literacy approach. Thank you.
Hi, welcome to Dayton.
Thank you.
You've touched on this already, so I'm curious what specific philosophy and resources, which you've touched on, so if you could get more specific, would you use to apply to support educators and families to improve school climate in Dayton?
So what strategies would you to improve school climate in Dayton? You're talking about like wraparound services and social emotional?
Social, emotional, you talked holistic in your
Right, yes.
initial speech. That's one of the things I was looking for.
Okay, so culture and climate, it really takes everybody. Sometimes morale can be down in a building. You know, I think when you're trying really hard and you're not seeing results, whether it's in school or trying to start a jogging program or getting back in shape, sometimes it's hard. You feel defeated when you give it your best. So part of it for me, and I'm going to go back to the professional development piece. All of our teachers are at different places, so I want to create a culture that's not an I got you. I want to create a culture where there's coaching and not simply evaluation. If I can't, or any of our principals can't walk into a classroom to be able to coach a teacher and help a teacher, how can we move forward? We have to change that culture. That's very important to me. Now, the social emotional piece is good for kids, but it's also good for adults. You know, we deal with a lot of challenges. Those of us that have been, in schools for a while, Monday mornings sometimes are very difficult because a lot of the things from the neighborhood come back in. So to be proactive, relationships are important to me across every part of this organization. I want to get to know you. I want you to know that I'm approachable, available. Like I said, I will live in a community. If you want a conversation or you have ideas, I want to listen to them. I want to listen to them, and I want to be able to problem solve with you. I want to be a thought partner with you in order to work through those.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Lewis has the next question, followed by David Israedi.
Hello. I was just wondering, what's your impression of building-based management, and can you give us the pros and cons about it?
Building-based management,
As
putting
far
the funding
as
out.
in each school.
So I have extensive experience with this in Cleveland, Chicago, and Indianapolis. if we're gonna hold principals accountable, we have to give them some autonomy to make some decisions in their building. Now, with that being said, there's gonna be conversations where we talk about the accountability piece. I wanna be able to make sure that we're aligning, what is the data informing, what are our challenges, and then let's look at the student-based budgeting. Are you supporting what you need to support? Are they connected? That's important to me. I call them deep dives, but I like to bring people together. And again, it's not an I got you, but it's to say, let's make sure that we are doing the right thing for our kids. Because if our decisions, at the end of the day, are about kids, we'll move forward together. Now, one of the issues that I have with some school-based budgeting comes down to, and this has just been the experience that I've had, and some people do it well and others do not, special education in English language learners. Because, there's a lot of pressure to turn around a school, and sometimes people think that they can cut in certain areas. So, we have to watch the law, and we have to watch, our moral compass as well to make sure that we're serving our children appropriately. Thank you. And that's for paraprofessionals too. I've seen too many paraprofessionals cut.
Hi,
Hi,
grew up in Cleveland as well, and
thank you.
for me, school was kindergarten through 6th grade, 7th, 8th, and 9th was junior high, 10th, 11th, 12th was high school.
Okay,
We've had a system here where we've got PK8, we've got some high schools that are 7 and 12, and now with 2 years remaining, we're talking about implementing this coming school year, reconstituting 3 schools, including one that was, on its way to being solid, as junior highs, and revamping all this, while still keeping some high schools 7 through 12, etc. I want to know what your view is on that, and would you continue with that, or how would you reconfigure?
so I have not had an opportunity to have that extensive conversation with the board, but it is my understanding that a decision has already been made. Plans are already in process and it's moving forward.
I'm asking what your professional opinion is of that move at this point, with 2 years remaining.
So I have always advocated for K-8s,
Thank you.
but I also believe that anything can work if we put our hearts and minds together.
Sarah has a question followed by Louis Clark Rainey.
Hi, I am a preschool special ed teacher. So I believe strongly in the importance of early intervention. So I wanted you to share your thoughts on early intervention, as well as some examples of your involvement in preschool and in special ed.
So special education is my background. I am a strong advocate of early education. We have to have early education. And research, I don't want to bore you with research, I'm sorry, but if children are not reading at the first grade level, so sometimes we think about it in dollars, and we have to. We have a budget to work with. But if we don't make that investment for early childhood education, and a child is not reading on grade level, by the end of the first grade, we will spend more money with interventions trying to catch that child up for the next 10, 11, 12 years. So I do believe in putting money in early childhood education. Special education is the same thing. The earlier that we can have interventions, the better off our children will thrive. But part of that, it can't just be the child, it can't just be the teacher. We have to make sure that we are bringing our parents in so they understand how to help their children at home as well.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome to Dayton too.
Thank you.
Current research supports the essential role that the arts,
Yes.
and particularly music, have in engaging students and developing thinking, skills, learning, self-discipline, all sorts of things that are connecting with individual information. What role has music played in the success of the students in the schools you have led? And how how do you envision music education continuing to play a role?
So this was one of the questions that I was asked by the Board of Education during one of the interviews. And it really had to do with budget cuts, sometimes they're a reality. And they asked how I would approach it. And my response was, this is the classroom. And everything that's close to that, we can't touch. We have to go out to the perimeter. The two exceptions I made were early childhood education, the person right before you, and the arts. The arts are critical. Our children have, the research was overwhelming. You know, I'm not even making this up. It's not about what I think. The research shows that it helps children. So in Chicago, we did some really neat initiatives. We had 2 schools start mariachi programs, so we had a very large Mexican population. That was outstanding. We have had schools do, in Cleveland, we have all-city choirs. Not all-city choirs, I'm sorry, all-city musicals. So throughout the district, every single school, we would get actresses and singers and dancers, and they would put on a New York-style production once a year. So I do believe in bringing together to share the arts, and it's important for our kids.
It's especially.
Just like recess.
Well, yes, it's especially a strength of urban learners and access to all sorts of learning.
Absolutely, absolutely. And when you think of culture, you know, our kids listen to music, they listen to music a lot. You know, I think of, I can't think of the name of the movie right now, I'm sorry. But where a teacher took music and some of the current lyrics and compared it to some of the past lyrics to talk about what does that really mean. So that gets into the social emotional and the release and what it meant in the context of the time. So there's so much you can do with music education.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
R. Williams from the NAACP, followed by Sue Phelps.
Good afternoon.
On behalf of the NAACP for Educational Organization, and my question is, if selected, what would be your process for assuming the position of Superintendent of EPS?
You selected what would be my process for assuming?
Yes.
So I'm going to go back to my 90-day plan. So I have created a draft 90-day plan. And the overarching is listening some more, and then listening some more. Because there is so much knowledge, not only in this room, but throughout the community. I want to understand how people feel about the schools. What are our strengths? What are our challenges? Huh?
The West Side.
Okay, and right, and I also have learned, just in conversations with teachers, and I spent a couple days here with that intent, that there are some, you know, some feelings about programs in an east side, west side divide.
Yeah, basically.
So opportunities, I talked about it, I addressed it before when I talked about zip code and I talked about opportunities. All of our kids have to have outstanding opportunities. We can't close achievement gaps. We can't move children in all parts of Dayton if we don't have great opportunities. So part of it will be interviewing, and when I say interviewing, I don't mean in a formal manner. A lot of it's going to be, can we get together for coffee? Do you have time? Can you meet? Can you stop by? I want to hear what you have to say. I want to hear what a lot of people in the room have to say, and the greater community. And I really want to hear it from kids. I talked to a young man back here, and so often we forget about the importance of a student voice. So I believe in student leadership, and I want to bring groups of children together from across the city to talk about the programs they have and where we might have some gaps.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we need NAACP as a partner.
Hi, thank you for coming today.
Thank you, I love being here.
I am a science teacher at the alternative school here in
Okay.
the public. And my question revolves around support, community support for our students. Many times we see a lot of children needing support outside of the district. So I'm looking for support outside the district. What kind of community support can you partnership with?
Well, we have a lot of opportunities for great partnerships partnerships, starting with our universities, Wright State, Dayton, Kettering. We have a lot of organizations. The NAACP was just here, 100 Black Men. Whoever we can bring to the table to support us, we have to get out there and recruit them if they're not already on board. Now, I don't know all the organizations that are on board, but I will never turn away an organization that is here to try to support our children. So I will make it my mission and develop teams of people to make sure that, and not just that we have partners. So I've been in a district where we had a lot of partners, but nobody knew what anybody was doing. So it also has to be very strategic to make sure that we're doing the right work in the right schools, in the right areas to get the best bang for our buck as well.
Can you give some examples of some partnerships you've had in the places you've been?
Well, I mentioned a couple, 100 Black Men, Closing the Achievement Gap, the Cleveland Fund. I know we have the Dayton Fund, local universities, Cleveland State Universities, some of our historical Black colleges and universities, Teachers Union. Can't do it alone. We need our unions. Unions and admin have got to come together and collectively work through many of our issues. Thank you. I hope I answered your question. Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Cole, very much. Unfortunately, her 30 minutes are up, so we are preparing for the next candidate. Thank you. And again, welcome to Dayton.
Thank you, everybody, for coming out. I really appreciate it. If by chance, informally, I can answer questions later, I'll be around. Thank you so much.
Now, as I mentioned earlier, you will now have a chance to finish a 5-question survey, which you should have. The yellow sheet about the speaker, Ms. Cole, return that. Staff members will collect everything right now. As soon as you finish, I'd like to raise your hand with your yellow sheet. Thanks.
Good evening. Good evening. First, I'd like to say that I am truly humbled to stand before you tonight as a finalist to become the next superintendent of Dayton Public Schools. It is truly an honor. It really is. Should I be selected as the district's next leader, it is my commitment to you, that I will work with the entire DPS community to make Dayton Public Schools one of the top 3 urban districts in the state of Ohio, as measured by student achievement and employee satisfaction. That's my commitment to you. But first and foremost, our short-term goal, and we have to all keep that in the forefront of our minds, is to prevent a takeover by the State Academic Distress Commission. So as such, I have identified 5 high-impact strategies that I believe will help us reach that goal. Those strategies are a comprehensive attendance plan. I'm trying to make sure I stay out of here right away. Our kids have to be in school in order to receive instruction, in order to achieve. We have to have academic interventions. Those interventions need to take place during the school day, embedded in our instruction, and they also need to take place after school. We need to have highly qualified staff on the very first day of school in every classroom. We also need to have reading endorsed teachers for the short term in K-3, but for the long term in K-6. We need to have student success plans so that we provide our students with a roadmap to be successful as they navigate through our educational system here in the public schools. And that will be a help to the parents also. And then, last but not least, we have to have monitoring for all our programming to ensure fidelity of implementation and accountability. One of the things I kept telling the board, they kept asking me, "You sure?" I said, "I believe we have everything we need here in the district." But I think that piece, number 5, is what we don't So why do I have attendance plan first? Kids have to be in school to achieve. There's many studies out there that talk about student achievement as it relates to student attendance. This is just one. Belfast and Garners maintain that daily attendance alone will drive up achievement, high school graduation, and college attainment rates, which is 3 areas that are impacted by chronic absenteeism. In Dayton Public Schools, 26.7% of our students, 26.7 are chronically absent. That means that they are missing 18 days or more in the school year. That's 10%. You have to be in school in order to learn. You have to be in school. And so I decided to take a look at some achievement data for Dayton Public School students to see if this was true. So I used our own achievement data. Okay? I presented this to the board, and I presented them quite a few different grade levels, but due to time, I'm going to show you the effects of 2 grade levels. For spring 3rd grade OAA, for our kids who missed 10 days or less, the average score on the state exam was proficient. When you looked at spring OAA 6th grade reading scores, the average score for our kids who had 10 days or less of being absent was a proficient. That's just by coming to school. That's not extra academic interventions or anything. That's just by being in the seat. So that is a powerful testament as to what we can do with an attendance plan. So you see this is the same up there. I worked with the truancy department, and they came up with this great theme. Success begins with less than 10. And I figured since I had a captive audience in here today, that I was going to stretch this plan that we're going to roll out at the beginning of the school year, because it's important, and we need your help to make this happen. Success begins with less than 10. But we're going to need all those other things wrapped around that I talked about earlier. We're going to need those academic interventions. We're going to need highly qualified teachers in the classrooms. We're going to need success plans. But on top of all else, we're going to have to monitor for implementation of fidelity. So once again, I believe we have everything we need in the district in order to be successful. When I took those numbers for all the test scores, and I looked at the performance index for 2013-14 school year, that's the last date that we had with testing data for, and I reduced the absenteeism rates from 26.7 to 10%. 10%. And added those kids' proficient scores in them, which the research says they'll score proficient, and our own data showed that they would score proficient. Our PI jumped by 20 points. We were at 82.1. I told the board that my midterm goal is for us to be at 85.1, which is a solid C for performance index on the state report card. That would give us on solid ground, and then we can work toward what? Moving up together to be DPS proud and become one of the top 3 urban districts in the state of Ohio as measured by student achievement. What else? Employee satisfaction. Because one of our biggest assets are our teachers, our principals, our other administrators, and our support personnel. We have great staff. We just need to make sure we're providing them with the tools to do their job day in, day out. Most of you have my bio out there, and you'll see that I spent 22 years in the military. I've been in the desert. I've been in some places that are just dangerous, leading young men and women. But when I came into education, this is by far the toughest challenge that I've ever experienced as an adult. It really is. And so I'm up for the challenge. I'm committed. I want to help move this district forward, and I want you to help me move it forward so we can do it all together. I didn't want to take up too much time because I really had questions. I saw that it was crowded, so I cut my introduction kind of short because the room is packed. So I know you want to ask some questions of me, see what I think about what's going on in the district, so I'm going to turn it over to the moderator.
Thank you, Dr. Lewis. Some of you had the opportunity to ask questions of the first candidate, so I will place you last. So I'm not giving you a hard time, but it's just wanted to make sure we got some fresh questions from some other people. The first is from Mr. Yu, followed by Frederick Cox.
Thank you. Sir, I want to tell you first that Dayton Public Schools have some outstanding schools. And as a substitute, I have been involved in those schools and I've enjoyed subbing in Dayton Public Schools. My question for you, sir, is if the day you are hired, what is the first thing you will do the next day to make sure that we will get out of our academic situation? What's the first thing you're going to do that next day?
The very first thing I'm going to do the next day is I'm going to call all the district leadership together. We're going to examine data. I have the privilege of having worked in the district for 10 months. So I've had the opportunity to gather the data. I've had the opportunity to be on an academic team, and we've developed strategies. We've talked about restructuring the schedule, the duty day, I'm talking military, the classroom instructional day. And so we're going to sit down and really focus in on our data to make sure that we're targeting those things that we need to target. And I'm going to also be sitting with human resources to make sure that we have teachers in the classroom. That's our biggest challenge right now, is making sure that we have qualified teachers in the classroom and not a bunch of subs on a long-term basis.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Roberson. Fred Cox, I graduated from Tyrus High School in 2008. My question is very simple and a good segue from the question before. As the only internal candidate, what abilities do you feel like you have access to that will propel you to be able to turn our district around within the next few years?
Once again, I've had access to the data. I think I've proved to you there, showing you what simple attendance could do for the district. I've had an opportunity to build some relationships with staff throughout the buildings. I kind of know where we're struggling with as a district. That's why I had monitoring and implementation with fidelity and accountability. And so, as an internal candidate, I have that insight, and it'll allow me to move a little quicker versus someone who's coming in from the outside who has to sit down and try to figure out what's going on. I already know what's going on, and I kind of know where we need to put emphasis at.
Dan Zumanarski, followed by Roma Stevens.
Thanks for your time. Your attendance data was just extremely powerful. When you put it up on the board like that, it was just extremely powerful. It's really, really something. But can you share with me some of the specific action items that you're going to take to address that issue?
And I think I've already started. One of the reasons I put that data up here was because I knew that this crowd would be here. So this is the parents, these are the aunts, the uncles, these are teachers, these are principals. I wanted everybody to feel the impact of that data, because that's a simple strategy. The other thing I'm going to do is I've already talked to the truancy department, and I talked to the board about this. House Bill 410, which is passed, and saying that we have to create attendance intervention teams. And so what I've suggested is that our truancy department, that we have a door knocker in each quadrant of the district. To go out when our kids have missed 2 days in 1 month, We need to be knocking on the door, saying what's going on. When you have parent conferences, when they get up to about 6 days, you need to put together a plan, a written plan. The board had said, matter of fact, Mr. Lee said, well, why only 4? If this is a priority, and if it can affect our data like this, why not have 2 in every quadrant? And I said, well, I have to talk to HR and the budget director about that. I heard there was a budget, so I know where we're at. Right. So I know where we're at budgetary-wise, and I would love to put 2, because this is powerful. And it's simple to do. And remember, this is without any academic interventions. This is without changing anything that we're doing. If we can just get the kids in their seats, we can drastically improve our achievement.
Great plan.
Hello, I'm Roman Stevens. I'm a City of Dayton worker on disability, and I formerly supervised 3 rec centers. So I'm going to tell you a story to ask my question. I supervised Center in Arlington Courts, and a young man came in my office in the 11th grade and said, Miss Roma, I can't read, I need your help. So my church paid for a tutor to come, and she assessed him at reading at kindergarten level. He had been kicked out of school. Within 3 weeks, she had him reading 4,000 words he had never read. She and I took him back to his high school together. And as we sat in the counselor's office, he's looking around the room smiling because he can read the posters. Well, a couple of years later, I came to a meeting with Dayton Public because I was angry about all these different reading programs we've gone through. And at that time, they were doing the Spell It How It Sounds. I don't remember what it was called. So my question to you is, reading is so important. I came through Dayton Public, Walkham, and Dunbar.
Yes.
And I would like to think I'm very intelligent because of the education I got. When will we decide that reading is important and choose a program that really works instead of everyone just pulling one out the air every few years when a new leader comes? Okay. And my last comment, I'm going to go back to my seat. I think that was it.
He's just going to be able to take the one question, so if you wanted to direct which question you wanted to answer specifically.
Okay.
Just get a bigger place next time.
We'll do. Which
that's
question?
it.
Okay, let me just say, one of the earliest memories I have, I'm 54 years old, so I'm starting to forget some things. But my childhood memories that stay with me is sitting on my mom and dad's lap in the evening, reading out loud to them. That's the most powerful strategy that any of us could do for our children, is to read with them for about 20 to 30 minutes a day as parents out there. That's the most powerful strategy. We also have some programs out there, and you're right, we do all these programs. And what did I say on my strategy? Monitor for fidelity of implementation and accountability. And so when we put these programs out there, we need to monitor them and see if they're working. And that's, I think, is where we fail. Okay? Because we have different things in different buildings. And I'll give you a quick example. We have our math program over at Ruskin. The kids' achievement levels are off the charts. So why don't we have that math program district-wide?
Zakia Sankora Jabbar, followed by April Turner.
Dr. Roberson, I'm here as a parent, and I wanted to know, what is your philosophy towards parents? First of all, I'm happy to see that parents are even up there and a part of your plan. But could you share a little bit about the research that maybe you have read about parental involvement, and not in a paternalistic way, but engagement, like really being inviting to parents when they come to a building, no matter their background or socioeconomic background, but inviting parents. Could you share a little bit about what your philosophy is around that and how you would support that in the district?
My philosophy is that our parents are our partners. because the parents are our first line of defense and making sure that students are getting what they need to get. A lot of times, a parent will come in, I'm a special educator, and so I've had parents come in at times when I was both at Mount Healthy, and I've had them come in here who were upset because their child wasn't getting something done, and they felt as though they weren't being heard in the building.
That's right.
And there's been times when they come in, they start cussing at me over the phone or cussing me out. And I say, oh, excuse me now, but you came to me for some help. Can you not cuss at me? Or I offer my opportunity to calm down and then we'll continue the conversation. But parents have to be viewed as partners. Now, what the research will say is that in high poverty areas, a lot of the parents haven't had a pleasant experience in school in the first place.
That's right.
And so when they go to the school building and they're treated disrespectfully, then it just turns them off and turns them away. So they become disengaged versus being engaged because they don't feel welcome in the building. Okay, and so I would like to see us become more welcoming, and that's across the board.
My question is, what are your thoughts about inclusion versus self-contained for the special needs student? I have two special needs sons. One is in inclusion and one is self-contained. And I know there's a push for inclusion, but as a parent who is involved, I know that my one that's in self-contained cannot handle inclusion. So what are your thoughts about that?
You must have read my dissertation. My dissertation is on co-teaching and inclusive practices, and yes, I am the architect of this big inclusion push here in Dayton Public Schools because right now, 70% of our children are in self-contained classrooms. Yet only 30% of them have a cognitive disability that does not allow them to truly be fully included in the general education curriculum. But for those kids who truly need a self-contained classroom, we need to provide that service. We have to have the full continuum of services for our kids. But what I've seen, and my staff will tell you, they're here, I fuss at them all the time. Once a child is put into a self-contained classroom with Dayton Public Schools, they never exit. And we're trying to change that right now through this inclusive practices. If they need it, yes, we give it to them. But if they don't need it, we're never going to achieve, because those kids are included in our bottom 20%. So if we don't give them access to the general education classroom with a highly qualified teacher, we're not gonna move the district. And so, yes, based on their individual needs, and they need self-contained classroom, we provide that service. But I think in the district, we have way too many kids in self-contained classroom.
I got another question, but I asked you.
Okay.
Question from Paula Humphrey, followed by Rose Mabry.
I too applaud the Dayton Public Schools. I have 3 wonderful adults who graduated from the Dayton Public School. I do have a question regarding, other than test scores, what other kind of goals might you have in regard to enrichment and building self-esteem and community building?
There's a couple of things. We have our Nails of Color initiative that we have going on right now. One of the things I wanted to talk about is also our success plan that I like to create. Why do I say we need a success plan, especially for our high school kids? Our 9th grade kids, a third of them drop out of school. A third. And when you look at the correlation between a high schooler, 9th grade student, getting a F, 1 F, versus 2 Fs, versus 3 Fs, the numbers skyrocket. So normally we lose 22%, but they get 1 to 2 Fs in the first quarter, the dropout rate rises to 25%. When they get 5 to 6, it skyrockets to 35%. And so that's why we have incoming classes of about 1,500 kids. But on graduation day, we see 400.
What are your plans to improve that?
One of the things is the success plan. Built into the success plan is going to be checkpoints. And so it's checkpoints for parents, checkpoints for the students, and also checkpoints for the guidance counselors. So that's one thing. The other one is, once again, the attendance plan. Okay? Third is our embedded interventions during the instructional day so that we can provide those students who need that extra help during the instructional day.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll just say one more thing.
Okay.
And then the great concept that we have here in Dayton Public Schools is those neighborhood school centers. We need to take a look at what the neighborhood school centers are doing. We need to improve upon our neighborhood school centers, providing more wraparound services for those agencies. And then, once we have them running the way we need to have them running, we need to expand our neighborhood school centers.
All right, thank you so much.
Good evening, Dr. Roberson. My name is Rose Mabry. I know you already know that. One of my questions, and you just finished talking about it, is are you willing to live in a DPS district? Familiarity is so important to our kids now, the young kids now. They need to be able, like you said, neighborhood schools. They need to see each other and see some of the same people, and our young men need to see you. They don't need to keep seeing the man that's giving them stuff on the corner to push. They need to see you too. See, he's willing to be out there. If he have to sit in his car, he'll be out there. They need to see you.
All right, thank you. Good question. Years and years and years and years ago, to be a school superintendent, most districts require school superintendent to live within the district. But the way with urban sprawl and with highways and things like that, neighborhoods are closer and closer, more connected. I live 28 minutes away, which means I can live in parts of Dayton proper and be further away than where I live now. And so that's a conversation that I would sit down and have with the Board of Education if I'm selected for this position. I have 2 kids. I have an 11th grader who's going to be a young lady, she is a young lady, a young daughter who's going to be an 11th grader this year, and my son, Gregory Jr., who's going to be a 7th grader. And so they're embedded into our school system and the Lakota school system. So that would be a conversation that I would have with the Board of Education.
Pam Means has a question, followed by Lois Clark Rainey.
Good evening. As you know, my name is Pam Means, and I have taught in Dayton Public Schools at Dunbar High School for over 10 years. During that time, we have had a high number of turnovers as far as highly qualified staff, especially in our special ed department. My question to you is, DPS is one of the lowest paying school districts in Ohio.
Yes, it is.
How do you plan to retain as well as attract teachers to staff?
During my conversations and interview process with the board, when they talked about highly qualified teachers, that was one of the things I talked about is recruit, train, and retain. I agree. I mean, the HR and the budget director might kick me for saying this, but I agree. We need to pay our staff a little more. We need to pay our staff a little more. But we also need to develop them. Richard Branson said, train your people so that everybody else want to come and snatch them away. But treat them right so that they always say no. Okay? So I believe in developing our teachers, our principals, our administrators, our support staff. You develop them by providing them professional development. You guys just submitted a needs assessment that identified that you wanted instruction on differentiated instruction. You wanted professional development on teaching comprehension strategies, and you also wanted instruction on behavioral management. And that professional development on that behavior management side will also help us reduce that chronic absenteeism. because that's included in the days absent. And so that's how I would do it. I would make sure that we get together, we have a quality professional development team. We recruit, we train, and we retain. But we also need to take a look at our basic.
Hello. My name's Lois, and I am a teacher, a music teacher, as you'll be able to tell by my question, but also a parent of 2 graduates of the Dayton Public Schools and a resident of the city too. Research shows that the essential role that the arts, particularly music, have in engaging students in developing critical thinking and self-discipline. What role does music education play in the school district you envision here in Dayton?
Several things. All the research says children need to be involved in other activities other than just simply academics. But research also says that children who are involved in music in particular achieve better in school. That's why I had my kids playing piano when they were 4 years old. So I believe in programs such as music. I believe in programs such as PE, and those are some of the things I've cut in the very beginning. But with our prevalence of things such as diabetes and the focus that should be on wellness, we need to be increasing those programs versus decreasing those programs. And I want to say something else about music as it pertains to extracurriculars and as it pertains to attendance. Our research showed that kids who have 0 extracurricular activities such as marching band, clubs, here in Dayton Public Schools, they miss on average 18 days. When they have 1 curricular activity, that number goes down to 13. When they have 2, it's at 9. So our goal in my plan, as I told the board, is to increase the amount of extracurriculars that our kids can participate in, because it ties directly into that attendance rate, which is directly tied to achievement.
Yvonne Isaacs, followed by Branford Brown.
Good evening. My name is Yvonne Isaacs. I was actually on the Dayton Board of Education for 12 years. President during the time, part of a team at the time that really did turn the district around and brought the district from academic emergency to continuous improvement. So I know what can be done in Dayton Public Schools. My question is it correct that the libraries are closed in the elementary schools? And if that is the case, what emphasis are you going to put on opening the libraries, since reading well at the elementary level in particular is so fundamental to academic success?
I think with the development of technology nowadays, our media centers, what they call media centers now versus libraries, where books are stored. And so that would be something I would probably gather the elementary principals, our K-6 principals, and say, okay, how do we want to utilize, and what's the best utilization of our media centers? Do we want to try to bring more books back, or are we going to make a bigger investment in making sure that we have books available by technology? Because we have the one-to-one technology initiative going on where every kid eventually is going to have a Chromebook or a device to use so that we can have the books online. And so that's a conversation that we would have to sit down and have.
Branford Brown, followed by David Israeli.
My question is, how do you intend to keep community groups involved in the processes, and what role do you see for organizations like the Urban League in working with the schools?
We need as many mentors in our schools as we can have. And so when I said that I will work in collaboration with the entire DPS community to make Dayton Public Schools one of the top 3 urban districts in the state of Ohio, that's what I meant. And so I went to outreach to all the community organizations. I know I have a board member, Dr. Walker, who is very in tune with what's going on out there with the communities and the different faith-based agencies and the other social service agencies and all those community agencies out there. And so as a leader, you can't do everything by yourself. So you rely on people around you, and you make sure you surround yourself with people like that. And so that will be my connection to say, okay, what direction do I need to take to make outreach services with these organizations?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Dr. Roberson, you've been with the district for a year. You have the least academic experience of any of the three candidates that they've selected. So, in order to be a leader of this district, we need to know who the people and personnel are. And I'd like to know if you can name 28 principals of the Dayton Public Schools and the schools they're in, because I think most of them are here. And I'd like to ask each of them to stand as you
by the state of Ohio. We can make that change. And tonight I'm going to talk about, over the next 5 hours, several things. It won't get a whole lot more funnier than that, so I'm glad we thought that. So I'm going to talk about some of those things that we can do to make a positive difference. But you know, yesterday I had the opportunity to sit in the lobby at the Dayton Board of Education offices with 3 students from Thurgood Marshall High School. 3 students, yeah, there you go. We have some outstanding teachers here applauding for that. These 3 students were waiting to go to football practice. It wasn't a plant, I understand. But I got to sit there and talk to them for 15, 20 minutes. One young man, he was kind of like that, he had long neck. 2 boys were sitting there, they didn't know who I was. I introduced myself, we started talking. They shared they were seniors. They shared that they were interested in going into business. One was going to go into the FBI, and one was going to repair computers. They had a goal. And I looked at them and I said, gentlemen, I got a question. If you wanted to change Dayton Public Schools, how would you change it? Oh my goodness, one boy shot right up. I am ready. He talked about the time of the school. When it started, he talked about comparing to other schools. He had ideas. I mean, it was a wonderful conversation. The boy next to him says, I got an idea. We need more snow days. But it was a great conversation. These 3 young men had an idea. More than that, they had more ideas about the future of Dayton Public Schools. And you know, as I look around tonight, you're here because you have ideas. You have an interest in promoting this school and making it a better place for students. I come to you from little old Castelia, Ohio. Yeah, it's a small town. I can stand downtown and look to the northeast and see Cedar Point's roller coasters. That's where we're located. We've got 1,100 students. What in the world is a guy coming to Dayton Public from a school of 1,100? Well, because I've got experience in bigger schools. I had a chance to work 8 years as Vice President, Assistant Superintendent for Butler Technology and Career Development Schools. That's a school district just outside of Hamilton. It's a career technical planning district that was the biggest career technical planning district in the state of Ohio. 49 career technical schools in Ohio. We had over 32,000 high school and adult students. I was in charge of all high school programs and had the opportunity when we came the first year, we were in the bottom 20% in performance in the state of Ohio. 41st out of 49. I was charged as the leader of the secondary division to improve that performance. Within 4 years, we went from 41st to #1 in the state of Ohio. And we held that for 3 straight years. So I was able to work with, as part of a great team, to take a district and turn it around and not only improve it, but make it #1. When I went to the Greene County Career Center, we were 40th in student performance the first year. Within 1 year, we went to 17th. In 2 years, we took adult workforce education and made it #1 in Ohio. So ladies and gentlemen, I've done this. I've done it at small schools, I've done it at big schools. And I'm excited to be a part of this. Now, I'm told I've got 10 minutes, and then you folks have wonderful questions, and I'm excited for that. So here we go. I believe our students deserve our best effort. And ladies and gentlemen, our students will be successful. Here are our goals.
Here is my platform. Here is our platform as a Dayton Public School community. We will stop the state takeover. I'll talk a little bit how to do that. We will increase student performance. By increasing student performance, we will stop the state takeover. We will increase stakeholder involvement and partnerships. If you read my bio, you saw that at Greene County, in just the 4 years there, we had 45 local, regional, state, and national organizations that partnered with the Greene County Career Center. We did not partner with them to get recognition, to get awards. We partnered, just as we will here at Dayton Public, to provide opportunities for students to become career ready, to become college ready. Because those folks are successful. Those of you in here that are business leaders know how to mentor young men and women and make them successful. We're going to make that happen. And we will prepare all students to be college and career ready. There's a few short-term things we're going to talk about, but you know, long-term, every student that graduates from a Dayton Public Schools high school, if they are not ready for college, we ought to take the initiative to continue to help them after high school to get them ready for college remediation free. Or we ought to make sure they have an apprenticeship, or we ought to make sure that they're on track for the military. We need to make sure that 100% of our students have a path for success, and they're ready for that path. How do we do that? In the first year, here's what we do. This is where the team comes together. A team of administrators, teachers, support staff, and community. Parents, community leaders, business leaders. First, we do the curriculum and alignment. We have to make sure that what the students are learning are what they're supposed to be learning. Too many times, we don't have that curriculum aligned with what we are supposed to be teaching. To prepare them, yeah, for that state test. But you know, some of the things why we're not ready is maybe the teachers don't have the toolbox. Maybe they don't have the right textbook. Maybe we don't have the right online resources. Maybe we don't have the right techniques to get those students ready. The first thing we have to do to improve student performance is to make sure we're teaching what we're supposed to be teaching. But here's the next thing, the educational delivery. You know, every student should be sitting on the edge of their seat in the classroom, waiting for that next thing the teacher's going to say or that next activity that's going to happen. Because you know, when the students are doing that and they're ready to go and they're excited, they come to school and they learn. And you know what? We got great teachers here at Dayton Public Schools. Those of you here in the crowd, you're here because you care about the students. Or again, you're bored on a Friday night. But you do care about the students. And you want to make sure they're successful. So why not give you more skills, give you more training to even make education more exciting? But here's the next thing, the extra help and intervention. We can put things in place. There are some things in place now, but we can put more programs in place where we can be watching students and how they're progressing. Let's take an example of 6th grade class in a building. And maybe we have 4 6th grade math teachers. We can be watching almost daily the pacing of that class. And maybe we have 3 teachers are here at a certain time, but 1 teacher is at this level. Well, there's a problem. Something happened. Something happened that that class was behind. And if we know that right away, our principals, our building leaders can make a difference, can provide some kind of help to get those students caught up. But we can monitor that sometimes every day. There are actually programs out there, not too expensive programs, something like Start Reading, where you can actually see within 15 minutes where the student's progress is. And we need to monitor that. You know, with extra help and intervention, there's other things that can happen. When you talk about extra help, it's involving the community, involving parents, involving our friends to come in and help these students. I think extra help too, and if it already isn't happening, every school should have a room, should have a lab set aside where students can go to be able to get that extra help when they need it. Getting it during school, maybe before school, maybe after school. Working together with our teacher team, with our building leadership teams to make these changes or modifications to give students a little extra help. But you know, when you have all of this, something else happens. Attendance. Students and teachers. Whether we're 100% student attendance or 100% staff attendance, there's always improvement needed. And I think we're sitting somewhere in the 70s and 80s here in some buildings. You know what? We have exciting lessons. The kids learning what they should be learning in an exciting manner. They're going to be coming to school. And you know what? As building leaders and as administrative leaders, we show the help to teachers. And we're not coming down on them saying, you got to do this. No. What help do you need? And you know what? Teachers can't wait to get to work either. You know, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to sound strange. It really is. People sometimes look at me and laugh when I say this. But when I was a teacher, every Sunday night, I couldn't sleep all year because the kids were coming the next day. Sounds strange, but Friday afternoon, that was always the rough one because I wasn't going to see them for 2 days. You know what? Because we made an environment in the classroom, because I had other teachers help me become a better teacher. And I enjoyed going there every day. You know, ladies and gentlemen, the next one is monitoring. I've already talked about that. Being able to monitor the students' progress, sometimes within minutes, where they're at. And here we go, in 2 years. Right now, our performance index is 62.9. We rank dead last in the state of Ohio. In the Ohio Coalition 8 of the 8 urban schools, we sit in 8th place. In Montgomery County, of the 16 schools in Montgomery County, we sit in 16th place. The data shows, the research shows, if we align the curriculum, if we have an excited educational delivery, if we are monitoring our students better than what we are now, and we have that extra help and intervention, our scores will go up 10 to 16% the first year, and within 2 years, upwards of 25 to 30%. And here's what we're looking at. In 2 years, I believe we will hit 85.5 points. That gives us a C rating for Dayton Public Schools. ODE isn't a part of us anymore. As far as a takeover, we become the #1 school in the Ohio 8 Coalition. #1 urban school district in the state of Ohio. We become 10th in Montgomery County. But here's the exciting thing I want to put in front of students and staff. Then we start looking. 86.2 is 500th place in the state of Ohio. 89.9 is 400. Why can't we go further than just the best urban district in Ohio? Why can't we set the goal to be the best we can be and get to 500, get to 400, and become a center for educational excellence? You know, ladies and gentlemen, it's not how long you live your life that counts. It's how you live your life during the time you have on this earth that really makes a difference. This staff has made a positive difference for years, whether administration, whether teachers, whether support staff, and the community. But we can make a better difference. And ladies and gentlemen, I want to be that person to help take us to that next level. With that, what questions do we have? I think that was 10 minutes.
Mr. Schreier, this one is from a student in the public school system. Her name is Asia Body, followed by Anthony Roebuck.
They're here tonight? Okay, great. Oh, they're coming up. Awesome. You're Asia? Shake your hand. Nice to meet you.
I'm a student at Cyber School for the Arts, and the crime and violence in our school districts is at an all-time high right now. Students might feel unsafe or uncomfortable. There are many situations lately, like the girl getting stabbed on the playground. Yes, I think it was a few days ago, an incident, a student from Meadowdale. We see many people speaking up on the news, but I've never seen a student speak up and tell how they feel or if they feel unsafe or uncomfortable. So as a student and a daughter of a DPS educator of 23 years, I'm asking, what are you planning to do to reduce these issues?
That's a wonderful question. Thank you. And it's not a question that's singular to Dayton Public Schools. So many schools have these kind of issues. By the way, there's my 2-minute card. I want to make sure. I'm kind of a shy guy, so I want to make sure I go all 2 minutes. Anyway, there's a few things that I think we need to do. At the last school, we actually started a respect campaign, led by students. It wasn't my idea, it wasn't the principal's idea. We brought students together and said, how do we make a positive difference in each building? And these student leaders, led by people like you, Agent, who had an interest in making sure their school was better, developed a program where they spoke to every third grader all the way up to senior about character, about not bullying, about doing the right things in life. Now, how do you change a discipline issue? It's student-led, student programs. But as a leadership team, as a building leadership team, as a teacher team, we equip our staff with the knowledge and skills to know when a student is starting to have a problem. And we get to that student and we talk to the student and find out what's going on. Most behaviors happen because something's happening at home, something's happening with friends, something's happening to them. And if we can have a climate where they want to come to school, they know they can talk to people, and we can find out the bad things before they happen, we're going to make a difference. Now, there are times bad things are going to happen. We as building leaders and as teachers need to make sure we have our discipline in place, we have the security force in place, and we act immediately when things happen, and we act promptly, we act boldly, and we make sure that those problems don't happen again. Thank you.
Name's Anthony Roebuck.
Anthony, nice to meet you. Yes.
What are the three things that persuaded you, or what are the three things that caught your attention that made you apply for a superintendent position in Dayton Public Schools?
Oh, that's a great question. Thank you, Anthony. We have over 14,000 students at Dayton Public Schools. When a graduating class leaves these high schools, they can make a worldwide impact. You know, when someone leaves small schools, maybe it's 40, 50, 80 students, we have over 1,000 students leaving every year. Those students will make an impact regionally, statewide, nationally, and worldwide. We have a community, we have a school district that's almost at a takeover. I wanted to come here to stop the takeover so that students will graduate and be able to make a difference in the future. This is Southwest Ohio too. My family is from Southwest Ohio. I wanted to be in a school district where there was a need for student improvement and the opportunity for success, but be in Southwest Ohio to be with my family. But the other part is that I am passionate about student success outside of the classroom as well. One of the track records that you'll see if you look me up on the internet is getting students involved in intra and extracurricular activities, whether it's student council, whether it's National Honor Society, whether it's Business Professionals America, whether it's DECA, which we have a great program here at one of our high schools. Those opportunities prepare a student for life to develop leadership, citizenship, cooperation skills, and they become better productive citizens. The impact that we can make in a school district like Dayton Public Schools is the reason I want to be here. Thank you for that question.
Titus Morrow, followed by Teresa Wendell.
Yes, sir.
This year, we've had a high turnover in our transportation department. Morale is low. So what is your ideals, or what would you like to implement and bring to the table?
You know, transportation turnover is an issue in all school districts. In the district I'm at now, there was actually a couple days we almost had to cancel school because we didn't have enough bus drivers. There just aren't a lot of people that want to do that. But here's how you change that. You build the morale. You mentioned morale is bad. You know, bus drivers are as important, or as an important cog in the system of education as all the other cogs. I get a thrill out of going into the bus garage sometimes at 5:30 in the morning. Where I'm at now, I'm the one that called school off. 12 days last year, 3 days this year. But we start off in the morning, getting to the bus garage at 5 o'clock. And we start driving the roads. And I'm talking to the drivers, I'm talking to transportation. But you know, they're part of the team. We're looking at changing or revising our strategic plan. I've actually involved a bus driver in that, or transportation bus driver, as well well as a bus mechanic, in the conversations with the rest of the team to be able to make change in the school. One of the things that the state of Ohio has said is we need to revise our mission and vision. You don't do that from the top down, in my opinion. You do that when you bring teachers, when you bring support staff, even students, parents, and community leaders together, because we're all together for this. That's how we do it. We build them around because you're part of the team.
Thank you very much.
Nice to meet you.
Nice meeting you.
Yes.
I'm Teresa Wendell. I'm the Neighborhood School Site Coordinator for Kaiser School. My question to you this evening is, what is your vision for the neighborhood school centers?
You know, the neighborhood school zones, you said zones, right?
No, centers.
Neighborhood centers. They are part of the Dayton public school system. In the part that those students will succeed and be a part of the success as the other students here as well. We need to make sure that as we are preparing, when I put up here about curriculum, educational delivery, about monitoring, making sure that all of the schools follow along in the same format and are part of the team. I look forward to learning more about our neighborhood schools. I am not as competent in that as I am in some of the other schools, but I look forward to spending some time over the summer in the first couple of weeks learning more. What are the needs? What are the issues? How can we improve?
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nicole Body Tree, followed by Don Zavensky.
Nicole Body Tree, teacher third at Marshall. And most of our buildings, we struggle with trying to keep our Black African males entertained or engaged. So my question is, because I'm looking at your bio, what experience did you have working with the Black student population, but especially our Black males, and what do you want to do to input?
It's a great question. My education or my experience is limited. At Butler Tech, we worked with many different school districts as part of our protective planning district, which did include Middletown City Schools, including Northwest, Colerain, and Hamilton City. We had programs in Middletown, in Colerain, in Northwest, where I was able to go in, work with the teacher, work with the students, work with the parents. Was I in there every day? No, I wasn't. Did I learn about the culture if I was to be in the building every day, if I lived in the but I was able to help provide some educational experiences that help those students get better, help them be prepared for college and for work. We have an office, Males of Color, here that has been started. And it has some amazing goals for the future. I think the development of that is going to help our young males to be able to set more goals for the future, to understand where their future is, the opportunities for college and career. And I think by working with that, expanding it, enhancing it, and doing it in all parts of our Dayton public school system, we're going to be successful. As superintendent, I look forward to working side by side with those in that area. I look forward to spending time in all parts of the Dayton community and getting to know the parents, getting to know the pastors in the different churches, getting to know the community leaders in those organizations, so I understand some of the struggles, I understand the challenges, and can maybe help get some of the answers. Thank you.
Hi.
Hello. Don, nice to meet you.
Hey, your winning plan included educational delivery.
Yes.
You talked about being excited to go to school.
Yes.
Teach, kids at the edge of their chairs. It seems like you practice what you preach.
Oh, get a little closer, they can't hear you.
It seems like you practice what you preach. You're exciting, great delivery. But how do you propose that delivery could be enhanced by the Dayton School District?
Oh, we can do it. We can do it. That's a great question. We can do it through professional development. We can do it by mentoring, by modeling. You know, an idea I brought to the Board of Education, this is out there. This is a big one. Get ready. You're on the edge of your seats. Okay, here we go. I'd like to start a Dayton Public Schools University, Professional Development Center, where we take our master teachers, and in cooperation possibly with UD, Wright State, Sinclair, even the ESC, but in the summer, offering courses to our teachers, taught by our teachers, on how to deliver education better, or if their area of need is extra help and intervention or in curriculum, we can give them help there. We have master teachers here. We have teachers that get it. I got it after my first year of teaching because of a gentleman named Ashley Swanger who taught at Ridgedale High School, who knew I struggled my first year, and I struggled because of curriculum. I was always excited, but I really struggled in some of the science areas I was teaching. I just didn't have quite the lessons, quite the objectives I needed. He picked me up one day and drove me to 3 states, Michigan, Indiana, and Illinois. And we visited 4 different programs of some of the best programs in America that had won awards, and helped me, give me a stack of lessons and objectives and ways to teach that made me a better teacher. He was a friend, a colleague that helped me, and we've got those kind of people all over this room, all over this district, that can help other teachers get those lessons more exciting. I look forward to being able to speak at staff meetings, to be able to be part of professional development, to help staff where I can as well. Thank you.
Mr. Yu, followed by Mary Bruce.
I showed your hand before. Good to see you. All right.
Sir, I'm a retired Dayton teacher for 35 years.
Congratulations.
And I taught 30 years at Meadowdale Elementary. I want to tell you that Dayton has some excellent schools. I have been in probably 70% of them. And I enjoy studying in the Dayton Public Schools. And my question is, what is the biggest obstacle that faces the Dayton Public Schools from preventing them to get out of academic emergency?
Well, I mean, the biggest thing is the performance. It's our performance index. It's all of the measures on the report card, the graduation rate. We've got to get our students to the point where they're performing at high levels. Just as I talked about before, in the steps, whether it's curriculum, whether it's delivery, students need to be excited to come to school and perform. And we as an educational family need to get to that point. Our biggest thing right now is to get those performance scores up, get our kids ready for the real world, and that's going to help us.
And I like your idea about the Dayton College teacher.
Thank you.
It's a good idea.
Thank you. Good.
You're welcome, sir.
Hopefully there's 7 board members that like that. I told you, though, the humor wasn't going to get like that.
Mary Bruce here.
Nice to meet you.
Same here. This isn't really my question, it's my daughter's question, but she had already been up.
Asian?
Trying to stick with
Is that
rules.
Asian?
No, that was Andrea.
Oh, okay, I got you.
Okay. Andrea is wants you to know that paraprofessionals are encouraged to go to school in order to become teachers.
Good.
And she did that. Took her a minute, but okay. After graduation, she found out that her years of seniority will not be acknowledged, and her pay will be as a first-year teacher. How can you fix this? If you're looking for great staff, there she is.
Oh, that's awesome. And I think any district is looking for great staff. But as any teacher or administrator in the room knows, when it comes time for seniority, it comes time for pay, or where you come in from one level to the next, it comes by the negotiated agreement. When you're working with whichever union in the district, whether it's classified, certified, or whatever, those kind of discussions have to happen at the negotiations table. So, if that is something that needs to be changed, and if the teaching team comes to the administration and the board and says, here is one of our proposals, we discuss it. And, you know, part of my history, it's hard to stand here, you know, for 10 minutes and talk about yourself and then 30 minutes in questions, and I keep watching my time. You know, to talk about, the hardest thing for me to do is sit up here and pat myself on the back. It really is. I hate that kind of thing because I'm successful because other people put effort in me and because I work part of a great team. So as part of that, though I do need to say some of the things that have happened. While I was at Butler Tech, I was on the negotiating team and negotiated 2 contracts. Greene County Career Center, 4 contracts. And at Margaretta, 1 contract, 1 day. None of them did we have to go to impasse? And the reason being is because the communication was positive leading up to it. When I work with teachers, when I work with unions, when I work with the community and parents, I'm never going to lie to you. I may make a mistake. And if I make a mistake, I'll be the first one to stand up in front of the entire group and say, I made a mistake, now let's fix it. I will never surprise the union. If there is an issue coming up that affects the negotiated agreement, I'm going to talk to them first. If I don't, and all of a sudden they catch something, they just have to call because I just missed it. I forgot. That's how I'll work. Issues like that need to be talked about as a team. Next question.
David Israedi, followed by Evelyn Schaefer.
All right, shake your hand once.
You sound like a great coach, cheerleader, politician, but specifically we've had real issues with fights at athletic events. We've had a lot of discussion about police officers in schools and at events, and we really haven't come up with a solution at this point. I mean, it's still pretty uncomfortable. And I'd like to know if you have any other ideas on how to solve this problem other than brute force and shutting things down, or what you see as solving this problem.
Well, I think it's a great question. It's not unique again here.
Right.
A lot of schools have that. You must, when it comes time for violence and extracurricular events, even school events, you're working hand in hand with the police force, the Dayton police. You know, now there was some murmurs there. I don't know much about the police. But where I'm from, whatever school I've been, we've either had township police or city police based upon the school we have. Those folks know best how to take care of that kind of violence. We as school administrators know how to run a building, but when it comes time for that, we need help from the people that are professionals. So we sit down and we talk about it. We have an amazing security team here. I met 6 of them here tonight, either in the hallway. These guys are great. They're positive. They're standing, I mean, they look good. They are on target. That team can be sitting down with the police as well, and we know what plan we're going to use for whatever football game, basketball game, volleyball game, where we could have an issue. The biggest part of that is understanding things that may happen, hearing from the community, hearing from students something might happen, and we are proactive and maybe have more police at a certain time, or we find the issues even before the issue starts. We got to work as a team.
I'm going to tell you, the police aren't popular in this crowd here, so they're looking for answers other than the police.
Okay.
We're looking for outside-the-box solutions or ways we can transform this situation.
Well, you know we have a security force here. We have a security team. These guys have been trained by I still got 30 seconds. These guys have been trained. They've been through training. At career centers, I've been a part of police academies at Butler Tech and in Greene County Career Center who use sheriffs, they use security agencies. We can look to other agencies then if we need to come up with some planning. But we got to find the professionals that help us. Dan Schorer is not Magnum PI. I can't do it. But other people are better than that.
Thank you.
No one laughed at Magnum PI. I mean, can you imagine a Hawaiian shirt only right now and short shorts? No, you can't. Now some of you actually have a nightmare.
It's a young crowd, Mr. Chair. It's a young crowd.
I didn't say Matlock.
We have one last question.
Only one?
Yes.
Oh, all right.
I'm Evelyn Schaefer, and
It's nice to meet you.
nice meeting you. And I've come up with various questions during all the speakers. The one I'm going to stick with is when you talked about attendance
Yes.
and how to improve attendance and everything. As an attendance clerk, my main problem is getting the parents past the point of your student has missed 5 days this month. How can we help you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or your student has 148 tardies this year of 2 hours or more. How can we help you?
It's tough, and I'm sorry, I want to cut you off there.
That's it.
I've actually had 3 parents in my career that have called me and said, Tommy will not get out of bed. I'm going to give him the phone. Would you make him come to school? You know, and that's tough because unfortunately parents have in some ways, and I don't want to make this sound bad, but sometimes parents have kind of lost control of the child at home. And just a few. Every parent in this room, you got solid control of your kids. I know that. But there are parents that have lost that. Now, we try to help where we can. One thing, and I'm not going to take credit for this, Sandusky City Schools started something called a Parent Connection Day. We did that at Margaretta last year. And in fact, Dr. Eugene Sanders, I want to make sure you're aware of this. Dr. Eugene Sanders is Superintendent of Toledo Public Schools, Superintendent of Cleveland Metropolitan Schools. He's a friend of mine. He will be someone that I'll be able to call on and help as a resource because he took Cleveland out of being taken over as well. But here's what they did. They started a Parent Connection Day. We did this at Margaretta. We invited parents to come in to give them the resources on how to understand College Credit Plus, understand academics, extra help, all this stuff. But we gave them other skills on how to work with their children. How to understand maybe you have someone that's becoming chemically dependent. How do you know if someone's being depressed? We actually had someone come in and show every parent how to get around their kids' locks on their cell phone to be able to know what the students were on to help. We as a school district can help parents in many ways, but there are sometimes we just won't be able to. So what we need to do is make education exciting, so the problem does not happen. The students stay in school, or stay at home, they want to come to school. Thank you. Am I allowed to say anything at the end?
You will, along with the other two.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schrader.
So this is a summation, or am I?
2 minutes to wrap yourself up to the
Okay.
side.
First and foremost, I want to thank everybody that came out today. I am extremely impressed. I talked to the press just a little while ago when they interviewed me. The fact that this many people came up on a Friday night, and I've been through questions before. Your questions weren't about when are we getting bus tickets. They were very intelligent. They were very thoughtful. This is a very committed community. I would love to bring my experiences in my urban settings from Cleveland, Chicago, Indianapolis, to come to Dayton to work for you. Like I said, I've had the plan, I've worked the plan has been successful. I know that together we can do great work. And I just want to say thank you for coming out here. Thank you for the wonderful smiles and the nods, a few laughs along the way. And I hope I get the opportunity to serve you as your next superintendent of the Dayton Public Schools. Thank you.
Good evening again. I too want to thank everybody for coming out. It is really impressive to see this many people come out. Education is important. When I was growing up, the school building was the hub of my community. We had involved parents, we had involved stakeholders throughout the community, and it gave us the opportunity to do some great things because we all work together. That's why I like to see Dayton Public Schools. I would love to lead this district. I'm up for the challenge. I'm committed. One of the things that I told the Board of Education in my first interview was that I want to see and welcome this kindergarten class of 2016. And then I want to say goodbye to them when they graduate as 12th graders. And then I'm going to walk out the door with them. I'm retired for good at that point. And so I am committed to stand here long-term, building the program, getting us back on solid ground, and then taking us to great heights. Thank you.
Thank you.
I also thank everyone for being here tonight, but I want to share a quick story with you. 4 years ago, I was sitting at the Greenview Local Schools graduation as part of the Career Center. And that night, a young man did a valedictorian address that really touched me. Talked about who made a difference in his life. And that night, I drove home, and I took my phone out, and I called a gentleman named Mr. Hoeing, first name Al Hoeing. Mr. Hoeing, who I talked to a couple times a year, was a teacher of mine at New Bremen High School. But that night I called him on the way home to say thank you. I am who I am because a teacher made a difference in my life, and you made that difference. Everybody in this room is here because education, because at least a teacher has made a difference in your life. You have been, if you're a teacher, a support staff, and administrator, you're making differences every day. I want to be that person, to work with you and make that difference. And what we talked about tonight, when we work with the curriculum, we work with educational delivery, we work with extra help, and we monitor these students for success. Together, as a community, the state of Ohio will not take over Dayton Public Schools, and we will become a center for educational excellence in the state of Ohio, and frankly in America. I look forward to the opportunity to work with you. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Schrader, Dr. Roberson, and Ms. Moore. Just to let all of you know, board members have been in the front row listening to each and every candidate. But I think you should know that your input, these little yellow, green, and blue sheets that you have patiently filled out, will have a great deal of influence on the consideration of the board for each of these candidates. So I just wanted you to know that you and your questions and when you are writing on the surveys, that you will have input as to who the next superintendent will be for this school district. So thank you for coming. It is this kind of involvement that is necessary to move this district forward. Yeah, for sure. This is what I like to see this. And yes, I do live in the Dayton Public School District. Let you know. Okay, I don't want anybody to ask me questions. Let you know right now. And have lived in the Dayton Public School District for 30 years. So. All right, thank you so much. Thanks for coming. And we wait. We wait.
Thank you very much, Marcia, and thank you for doing this great job. Could we hear a round of applause for Marcia Bonhart? Thank you to everybody who came over here. You obviously heard a lot of praise from the candidates and from everybody else. You have many other things to do, but you chose to come here.